Greetings and salutations, my friends, and welcome to a new video. Me and my emotional support water bottle are here to build an April TBR together. I never thought I'd see the day, honestly, where I could stand here and say that I saw the arrival of the day where I'd be exclusively reading from my TBR or from a TBR card, because if you guys have been here for a while, then you'd know I could never stick to a TBR. I'd read anything and everything outside of it. There was just something about having a TBR that kind of made it even more enticing to read outside of it. And nowadays, aside from maybe the one-off, one-on manhwa manga volume, I am exclusively reading from my TBR card, which is amazing. And so these videos are really working to kind of keep myself in line and to really keep myself kind of together with the reading so that I'm not so overwhelmed. So I think we're doing quite good on that end. April, though, is a month where I'm a little bit scared because I'm not in the mood for anything specific. There's not a specific book that I could borrow, buy, or even that I have to like shop on my shelf that I go, yes, tú eres el elegido, you're the one I want to read this month. I don't really have anything that I'm currently eyeing out on my shelves, so it's going to be a little bit difficult. So again, the prompts will guide us. It will for sure give me some sense of direction as per usual. And I'm also going to give you the rundown of what I did read in March and how much space we liberated from the TBR card, the things that are staying, the things that are going, to see exactly how many books we end up choosing for April. Because I didn't realize up until I counted them afterwards that I in fact put 11 books on my March TBR. Apparently a girl does not know how to count, but I did end up with that many. So with that said, welcome to my TBR prompt jar chooses my April reads. Anything could happen this month. I always say it, but this month truly, I feel like I am at risk of making a TBR, reading outside of it. We'll see how all things go because I don't know what I'm in the mood for. These are all the books that I read in March. I'd say quite a good amount. And then I also read a manga volume. It wasn't on my TBR though, but I did read something else. And then there's a book I am on my way to finishing. And so might as well just mention this one too, because I do feel like this one's gonna be finished today, actually, once I do get some free time to sit down and read. With that said, let me give you the rundown. So, A Fragile Enchantment was read, really enjoyed it. I am going to do a wrap up this month, so you guys can stay tuned for when that goes up for like all of the official reviews and ratings and all the good stuff. Bride by Ali Hazelwood, very exciting one. Also read and loved this month. Hopeless, read, didn't so much love it, but it was read this month, so we can take that off the TBR card. Then Powerless by Lauren Roberts, a DNF. The 7-Year Slip was also read, really enjoyed it too. And then Sweet Bean Paste, I am like 96 pages away from finishing this. Another book that I made progress with was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I'm currently 120 pages into this. I do think, depending on how things go, I may be able to finish this before the month is over. And so all in all, those are 7 books read for March, plus a manga volume, a random one that I picked up and I really ended up loving it. I think all things considered, the fact that we have got 4 books left on the TBR card is really not that bad. So these are the leftovers. We have got A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal, which is definitely staying because that is a book club pick for one of the book clubs I host over on Patreon with Liv. So because that is a bi-monthly book club, we are reading that in March and April. So that is staying on the TBR card. The 3 Keys by Kelly Yang. I tried reading this in March and I just realized I wasn't in the mood for a middle grade, and I still think I am not. So sadly, I am going to take that off the TBR because I really do want to be in the mood for it because I really loved Front Desk and I don't want to risk my enjoyment of book 2 just because I'm not in the mood to read so young. And then we have got El Juego del Ángel, and if I can turn this around, I have got City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. El Juego del Ángel is staying, so that's 2 books. And then for City of Brass, I am gonna leave it there because I was told by one of my favorite people in this world, Erin from Booked and Busy, that the audiobook is really, really good. And so I will trust her on that one. I'll get the audio. I always like to have at least one on deck for when I'm diamond painting and stuff. And so City of Brass shall be the one. So I've got 3 books currently sitting in the TBR card. That means we get to choose 7 books so that we can make a total of 10 for the month of April. April is a rather short month, so I'm a little bit concerned with so many books, but it's always great to have, you know, options so that I can kind of pick and choose and I don't feel so confined to like 5 different books and we can just make some good choices. Let's pick 7. Let's get get into the TBR jar. I'm really crossing my fingers here. So let us see what this TBR jar of death, luck, and everything else gives up to us as the very first prompt of the month. I'm always hoping that it'll give me like something different every month so as to not have the same prompt. So I always try and fish from the bottom. I definitely threw one on the ground. Should we pick that one? Let's investigate. Oh, newest purchase. Oh, okay. That's a turn of events. I actually have just bought one book recently. Well, I've got two things, but one is a book, one is a manhwa volume. If I could do either or, literally have them in my bedroom, please hold. Okay, so I totally forgot that I actually got book mail recently, and I have these three books sitting right here on my bedside table, which are my newest acquirement. And the first one is Dark Star Burning, Ash Falls White, which is the second book for Song of Silver Flame Like Night by Amelie Wenzhao. This is the Illumicrate edition. Look at that. So I'm thinking maybe this one, because it is one of my newest purchases. Then I've got Villains Are Destined to Die Volume 5, which is also one of my newest purchases. And then I have got One Dark Window, which I mentioned in one of my previous vlogs that I had hauled. And so we've got three options right here, and I don't know what to go for. I feel like logically I should go for Dark Star Burning, Ash Falls White, because then that means that I'm able to finish out a duology. I don't have to prolong the finishing of said series, and then I can just scratch this off my list of ongoing series. And so I feel like naturally this should be my choice without too much of a struggle. So I'm going to be responsible here, and I'm going to choose this one. It's also really not that long in comparison to what I thought it would be. It's like 350 pages. We follow Lan, who is a song girl, and she has long since lost all signs of her heritage, her ancestors, her family, due to colonizers getting to her land and reaping it for all that it had to offer. And so nowadays she is constantly searching for answers on where she comes from and what exactly happened. And the only clue she has is a mark that she has on her arm that she has been constantly looking for what it means. And in the midst of doing so, she will meet Zen, who is a practitioner. The practitioners of old that are said to not exist anymore. People who can manipulate yin and yang energies and who are able to perform some sort of magic, who are trained in martial arts, and who are very much tied to the demon gods that have been shunned by this new imperial court taking over the kingdom. And so as she finds out that these practitioners still exist, they very much are still active, and she finds out that she herself is a practitioner as well, she kind of gets her whole world turned upside down, and she is whisked away to find out the truth of who she is and to learn how to master her abilities. And I freaking loved the first book. I gave it 5 stars. It was such an action-packed yet world-building heavy and cool book with amazing characters and amazing dynamics and a magic system unlike anything I've read before. And so I had a fun time with book 1. So I definitely would love to have a fun time with book 2 as well. Going into prompt number 2, I've got one that I've latched onto. I keep dropping all of them. Oh my god. I really need to refold these. Ooh, a fantasy book. Okay, that's perfect. So we have got a fantasy book, and which one will I choose? Is this the best choice? I don't know. I'm honestly just looking at the TBR already, and I'm like, all we have got, save for El Juego del Ángel, are fantasies. And so I'm gonna see and attempt to figure out how we're going to break this up as we go along. But I'm gonna go for Throne of the Fallen. Every time I look at this book, I always go, I want to read it, I want to read it, I can read it, I want to, I will, and then I don't. But I think it's finally time. I have been very much in the mood for fantasy romances or fantasies that have a strong romance subplot. And so I think that kind of also helps with the balancing act of maybe books that are not so romance heavy. And so I think Throne of the Fallen could be a really good one for that. This is the companion series, but I do believe this is branded as adult or maybe new adult. I don't know how exactly the category is branded for this one, but it's the companion series to the Kingdom of the Wicked series. And this follows individually, so it's like standalones now. It follows a different Prince of Hell in each book. And so in this one, we follow Envy as there is a deadly game ensuing, and he knows that one of the few ways to enter and win that game is to enlist the help of somebody else, also known as our main character. I always forget her name, Camila Antonius, and she is also in some sort of dilemma that she finds herself doing a devil's bargain with Envy to kind of get herself out of a sticky situation. And so it seems to be like a mutual agreement of sorts. I have heard nothing but fantastic things about Throne of the Fallen. It's long, I'm not gonna lie. Like, how long is this book? I mean, it's like over 500 pages, and so it's lengthy, but I'm hoping that the amount of time invested in this book will be worth it, because I didn't really love Kingdom of the Curse. I've talked about it a lot in the past, but I'm hoping that Throne of the Fallen can more than make up for my lack of enjoyment of the Kingdom of the Wicked series. And so I'm hoping it will be a good one, because I read Kingdom of the Wicked, I loved it. I read, oh god, what's the first book? Stalking Jack the Ripper, and I also really loved that when I read it. And so I know I enjoy Carrie Maniscalco's writing. It just has to be like under the right conditions, and I'm hoping that Throne of the Fallen lends itself for good conditions. Okay, let's go for our third prompt. Hopefully this lends itself too for a shorter book, because that would be lovely to kind of, again, balance out these longer books and all of these fantasy books. So for our third prompt, we have got, oh, a paperback read. Okay, easy peasy lemon squeezy, baby. Okay, this is fantastic. And I think no brainer. I'm not going to wait until something else fits it. I am going to choose Villains Are Destined to Die Volume 5. Now, you guys know I've raved about this a ton. I love this manhwa series. I have found my newfound love of manhwa through this specific series. So this is an isekai manhwa, which means that our main character shall be entering a world other than her own. In this specific scenario, she is entering a game world. And so our main character is very reluctant to pick up like the newest, hottest romance game that everybody has been playing. She grows a little bit obsessed with it. She plays it nonstop. She wins it in easy mode. She doesn't win it in hard mode because it's very hard to do so. And in each of the modes, you've got a different storyline. So in easy mode, you play as Yvonne, which is the lost duke's daughter, as she attempts to find her way back to her father, to her siblings, and to her kingdom. And in order to do so, she needs to lure in all of her love interests, garner their affection points so that they can help her in her journey. Whereas on the flip side, on hard mode, you play as the villain, which is Yvonne's stand-in, called Penelope Eckhart. And Penelope Eckhart's mission is to stay in the royal family. And so she doesn't want Yvonne to get there, because then she'll be shunned from the family. And she loses affection points a lot faster than she gains them. And so most of the time she's just dying in the game because the love interests kill her. She's not actually a villain. She's just a product of her environment. And she's the type of person that goes, if you're gonna treat me wrong, then I'm gonna return the treatment. And so our main character falls asleep playing the game. And when she wakes up, she's playing the game as Penelope Eckhart. And so she has to figure out how to navigate the game, how to win it, how to earn those affection points. Volume 4 was definitely my favorite thus far. And so I can't wait to see what Volume 5 is going to do. Never thought I'd find myself saying I want a book to kind of buffer out the fantasies, because I'm such a fantasy girly, but I don't know, there's just something about romance books that have been really doing it for me lately. Never thought I'd see this version of Mel, but we're here. So for prompt number 4, I have, oh, a booktuber fave. Okay, but these prompts are kind of fire though. Now, I have got plenty of those, so I'm definitely thinking I can work in a romance for this one. I don't know if I'm setting myself up for failure for this one. I hope I am not, but I think the drama could be quite nice. It's also a longer book, but I know the first book for me went by super quick, and so I'm thinking maybe this could be a good one. I acquired it recently, and I know it's a lot of booktubers' favorites, and that is Magnolia Parks. This is The Long Way Home. I read Magnolia Parks, the first book. I really enjoyed it. I tried to read Daisy Hates. Daisy Hates is not for me, just down to the format. It's just not something that I particularly enjoy. Footnotes in books and fiction books, not my favorite, because the footnotes were just so ridiculous. And if they're there, I can't ignore them. I don't know if it's like the ADHD or what, but like if they're there, I'm gonna read it. And so I can't just skip over it because it feels wrong. And so Daisy Hates was just stressing me out, down to the plot too. So I couldn't do it. But honestly, the idea of being back with Magnolia and BJ and that aspect of the story and that whole drama to see how things carry on, I am thinking that sounds mighty appealing. And so I'm gonna try and read Magnolia Parks. The worst thing that can happen is that I end up DNFing this and I don't read it. And so I will see how all things go. But basically in Magnolia Parks, we follow the story of Magnolia and BJ, who are childhood best friends. They have always been very close with each other, and they have also been really into each other for a really long time. And so come to find out in the first book, during their dating period, BJ ended up cheating on Magnolia, and Magnolia, obviously rightfully so, sent him flying. And in the first book, we really just observe their toxic cycles with each other as they continue to be best friends after the fact, and how they cannot seem to escape each other, and how they're on this constant vicious cycle of looking for each other's affection and validation and love and companionship in ways that they maybe shouldn't, because it really is up for the kind of reader to kind of choose whether they think it's right or not right. They're not particularly good people. It's very much Gossip Girl, but in London. It's not the best written book ever, but it's a fun time. time, which I'm always down for. And honestly, the drama of Magnolia Parks kind of whisked me away and I was living for it. And so maybe in this third book, technically second book, because basically Daisy Hates and Magnolia Parks happen at the same time. This and the fourth book happen at the same time. And so I'm thinking I can just skip the Daisy Hates books, not for me, and I can just keep on going with Magnolia's books and kind of hear secondhand about what's happening in Daisy Hates without having to mess with that whole thing. It's going right into the TBR. It may just be a mistake, but we're gonna attempt. We're gonna do it. We are down to the last 3 books, and I just realized I have not even thought about my April book club pick for Patreon, which I should have naturally put in here because it's a fantasy book, and I did not think about it because I still don't have it physically. It hasn't arrived to me yet because my PO box has been closed the past few days. So I'm going to have to figure out how to put it in here, hopefully with one of these picks that I get. So let's see what number is this? Our 5th prompt is flowers on the cover. Pretty sure I saw 2 flowers in there and they're like massive, so it's like hard to miss. Okay, yeah. Baby, hello, it's got flowers in it. Okay, so flowers on the cover. We're going to go for An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson, which again is my Patreon book club pick for April. I am so excited about it. It's a Sapphic Carmilla retelling and I am just so ready for it. It's almost like a companion novel to A Dowry of Blood is my understanding of the situation. So I know in this one we follow Laura Sheridan as she arrives to this new prestigious academy, and not only is the academic setting super competitive, she finds herself in a rivalry with one of her fellow classmates, Carmilla, and both of them are thrust in the confidence of their poetry professor, who has a deep dark obsession with Miss Carmilla, and things go from there. I am so excited about this one, and so naturally this has to go into the TBR, and so I don't have it physically yet because again it's at my PO box, but they haven't opened for a few days. They're not going to open until Monday, and so then I'll have the book physically, but until now, settle for the picture. 2 books left and we'll see what we pull. So let's go for this one. It's like really folded, and this again, what am I supposed to do with this one? This is too wide. The point is to get directions, but I got the free slot again, which I think I got in March, didn't I? Or March or February, one of those 2, but this is like too wide a prompt because I never really know what to do with a free slot. I'm like, do I choose something else? I feel like honestly, just given the way that the TBR is going, maybe I shouldn't choose something else so that I'm not overwhelming myself with such long reads and I can just choose to not put anything in here. Maybe free just means do whatever you want. Grab a book, don't grab a book. Who the fuck cares? I mean, well, I could, but should I? Should I put Dune in here? Now listen, Dune is something that I started years ago. I think it still has the bookmark in there. I got to page 120 and then I didn't finish it. And I was like kind of intrigued by it, kind of enjoying it, but at the same time I was kind of like hating on it. I think I kind of want to read Dune. I mean, after watching Dune Part 2, I've been like constantly thinking about I want to read it. I want to read it. I'm so intimidated by the book. I also have the audiobook, so like either way, I have it in either format. And if I don't read it, it was never part of my TBR because it was a free slot. Best to have it in here and to have it as an option than to halfway through the month say, oh, I want to read Dune, and then just go crazy and drop everything else in my TBR. So let's just put Dune in here. So in Dune, we follow the story of Paul Atreides as him and his family move to this new world that its allegedly only value is a spice called melange that is not only able to facilitate interspatial travel, but to also unlock certain parts of the brain that you otherwise wouldn't be able to access. And so as they get into this allegedly inhospitable world, his family is betrayed and he has to forge a new path for himself where he will rebrand as the Muad'Dib and go from there. And it's a crazy ass series. I know more about Dune than I probably should given the fact that I never finished the first book, but maybe this is just where we need to be. Okay, so for our very last prompt, I'd ideally like something short and find something that potentially fits what I am thinking of ideally choosing because it's a short book and I'm looking at it and I think it would look quite interesting on my TBR. It would be an interesting book to read. So let us see. This says new to me author. Ben and Snap, baby. I could say this author is new-ish to me because I've only read one thing by them. So they're not entirely new, but but new enough that the novelty is still there because I don't know a whole lot about this author and her works. And so I'm going to bend and snap just because I don't want to reach for another one just to make this book work. And so newish to me author, I've only read one thing by them. It was a fairly short book, so it's like what gives, you know, a 300-page book is not enough in like a single instance. It's not enough to be really acquainted with the author. So I'd still say the author is new to me. Fight me on it because I will fight you in the comments. I'm gonna go for Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson because the real only experience I've got with Holly Jackson is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I really enjoyed it upon a reread. I've been told that Good Girl Bad Blood is even better than book one. I know it's got a podcast element. After Pip leaves high school, she opens a true crime murder podcast with Ravi, and in this one will establish a whole new investigation, a whole new mystery. I was flipping through this book earlier actually, and it even has pictures. Like literally look at this. It's got like a picture of like knives and stuff for like evidence, I'll assume. It's so very different to what we get in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder because we do get like tables and interviews and whatnot, but I do feel like the mixed media element of this one is going to be a whole lot more interesting than book one. And again, it's a shorter read, so I don't feel like I'm going to struggle to get this one read. And so in the grand scheme of everything happening in my TBR, I feel like it's a blessing to have a book that short and to have a book that's also not in the fantasy realm, so as to kind of break up these books that can feel quite overwhelming as I read them. And so definitely gonna go for Good Girl Bad Blood, and I'm sure some of you guys will want to fight me on the new to me author thing, but welcome to my house. So that is it for today, friends. That is my TBR jar chooses my April read. Honestly speaking, it was a little bit more chaotic than I would have expected it to be, but I feel like that's also attributed to the fact that I really don't know what to read this upcoming month. So I think that was reflected in the confusion, slight do I actually want to read this or not vibes in the video, because I really could have chosen, I feel, just about anything. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. As always, let a girl know what you are going to be reading in the month of April, and if there is any overlap with my books. Are there any books that you're going to be reading too? If you have read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, also let a girl know down in the comments. If you reach the end of the video, let us leave a headphone emoji, earphones, anything of the sort for Good Girl Bad Blood, or even a podcast microphone. It could be a fun time. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already for more content like this. As you guys know, I've got a Patreon. It's always linked down below in case you guys want more extra content, from videos to tons of live shows to 2 book clubs, a Discord server, movie nights and game nights, and just a bunch of things in between that you guys are not going to see anywhere else. Patreon is linked down below. It helps keep the channel afloat, keep things running smoothly, so that is always down there in case you guys want to join us. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video.